Hello and welcome to the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, a place for conversation about travel, adventure, life lessons, and making the most out of each and every day. I'm your host, Alasdair Green, and each week I will have a conversation with someone who will not only inspire us all, but give us an insight into living life to its fullest. But before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor, Whole Earth Provision Company. And on this week's episode of the Outdoorsy Educator podcast, we have Amanda Black. Amanda, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for being here. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Amanda Black, and I'm the owner of the Solo Female Traveler Network. We are, at our heart and our soul, we are a community. We're a community for women all over the world who travel solo. And we also offer incredible organized group tours specifically for women traveling solo.
And what got you into this? Obviously, as a woman yourself, I'm assuming you're somebody who enjoys travel. But what made you take that step from, again, I'm assuming somebody who enjoyed to travel to creating this network?
I was traveling solo for years, and I have mostly incredible stories, met some of my closest friends. But once in a while, something happens because you are a woman by yourself. I was a backpacker, so you are a little vulnerable. And I had some things happen that just weren't ideal. And I also was meeting some of the most incredible, inspiring, most fun people on the road, specifically women.
Mhm.
And you meet them and you have this great time. Usually you spill your guts to each other. But then you kind of go on, move on, and you may not really stay in touch.
Right.
So, because of those two things, I thought to myself, there really just needs to be a place where solo female travelers can gather and support each other and give each other advice that we can't really find in guidebooks and whatever. So I created a Facebook group, and this was 10 years ago. And that Facebook group grew. And after about a year and a half, at the time, we had about 65,000 members and they wanted to travel together. So I put together a group tour to Bali and it went fantastic. And
Mhm.
now we're 8 years later and we offer these tours around the world, and our community is over 500,000 members strong.
I love this. And this seems to be a little theme of my life over the last few days. When this podcast goes out, the one that will come out the week prior is a wonderful woman and friend who runs she's a van lifer, she's through hiked all sorts of incredible things, and runs a woman-centered book club where they look at travel and adventure books together. And we talk quite a bit about the community that is built and, as a guy, I can be vulnerable and say I'm not always aware of the importance of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure, a women's only group or a men's only, this might seem like a good idea, but it certainly runs a lot deeper than that. And so I'm fascinated to find out a little bit more about what this group has brought you. So where did you say the first trip was that you did as, the founding member of the solo female travel network?
It was to Bali. And it
Bali.
was only because I was living in Australia at the time as a struggling expat. And
Right.
Bali was close and it was a place people wanted to go. So I had at the time a negative bank account. So I needed to be pretty prudent on how I was going to do this. And that
Right.
seemed to be, I don't know, it just made the most sense.
Absolutely. And then I'm kind of looking through a little list of notes that I've made. And again, a recurring theme in my life recently, which I'm just diving into with both feet, is the thought of deeper connections and shared firsts. I'd love for you if you could just to share a story either from your own life or somebody who's traveled with you about an impactful or profound first.
Yeah, so I mean, as we talked about, my whole TEDx talk was about
Yes.
shared firsts and how they, in my opinion, from all of my travel experience and leading tour experience, it's these moments of awe that you share with other people that really can bond people together. And as travelers, we experience that all the time. We experience doing this incredible day tour or going diving, or I mean, the list is endless of these really cool things that put us in this state of awe. And we're doing it side by side with people. And in my life, that's how I've bonded the quickest and deepest with other people. And I mean, I have countless examples of that. I don't even know where to start, to be honest. But I think the idea is that in travel, we experience these naturally, but what about the rest of our lives? Like, what about the rest of the days? We need to
Right.
experience it all the time. How can we leave that magic only for, that once a year trip or twice a year, whoever you are, however much you travel? So the idea is to create those moments with people in your everyday life. Like instead of going for coffee with someone you want to get to know, maybe you go salsa dancing for the first time or whatever. Do something different. Take a pottery class. I don't know.
I love that. What you're saying, there's two things that really resonate with me. And one is like, I'm not going to be traveling that much other than I'll be going home for a month this summer. So I'm really trying to find local things to sort of scratch that itch of travel. It doesn't have to be huge or across the world. To have that sense of wonder and experience new things, I can go to a town 30 miles away I've just never been to before and go
Hmm.
for a day and learn new things and meet new people. And on that note of meeting new people, I was listening to another podcast. You may know this lady. Not sure of her last name. It's Jackie, Traveling Jackie, she goes by. And there's a podcast called Jump, and she runs a travel company called Jump Adventures. And she was talking about the fact that she talks to people who have been on her trips, and she asks, what was the favorite thing? And I don't know if it surprised her. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but it was always about the people that they traveled with. They went to see Machu Picchu, and they've been all over this travel company, taking people all over the world, seen incredible things. But the resonation of who you did these things with and the people you met is the long-lasting story of these trips. And it sounds a similar experience to your own and one that you've helped curate through this travel network.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's tons of companies that can take you to the pyramids in Egypt, for example. But it's not the fact that we took our travelers to the pyramids that make our travelers come back with us again and again. It's that they're traveling with such like-minded women and they can come solo and feel totally part of the group. There's no awkwardness because everybody's there solo. And everybody has this sense of wonder that people in our everyday lives may consider kind of strange or, a little too much even sometimes, but we get it. And so, yeah, it's true. You travel with these amazing people with a similar sense of adventure and you're doing something new for the first time. It is inevitable that you make some really close connections.
And once the people have been on the trip and they come back home, is there still a community? You mentioned the Facebook group. Do people kind of stay in touch? Have you got something set up to where, as you alluded to earlier, sometimes you'll meet people. I've backpacked around Europe myself. You meet people and you have honestly quite intimate moments sometimes, like deep conversations because they're your kinfolk, they're your people.
Mhm.
But then you go different directions and you lose touch. So, is there anything in place for people to stay in touch?
Yeah, so when you come on one of our tours and you go home, there's a few ways to stay in touch. One is there's a WhatsApp group dedicated only to your departure. So those WhatsApp groups can sometimes be active for years after the trip.
I
And it
love
may not,
that.
yeah, it may not be every single day, but it might be, for holidays or sharing like little bits of their travel since the trip. Those are really active. You can still use the Facebook group, of course. Now it's pretty big, so it's not as easy for those more intimate relationships. But what a lot of our travelers do is they plan to go on more of our tours together. So they sort of have these like in real life reunions.
I love that. And again, to me, that's what it's about. Yes, we want to see these magnificent things in the world, but finding your people, finding your tribe, to me, that's what travel's about. And your stories really remind me. Before I moved to the States, I went to New York and I was backpacking around mostly Canada, but a bit of the States. And this moment has stuck with me. I'm a moderately tall guy, a little over 6 feet, had my backpack, and I was I think it was Grand Central Station, one of the big train stations in New York. And a nice guy came up to me and, oh, where are you going? And we had a very small conversation. Suddenly he asked, oh, I'll show you where the platform is. And I could already see the smile on your face. And some alarm bell went off in my head. This guy was massive. I mean, must have been 6 feet 6 or 7, and and I managed to get myself out of that situation. But even as a pretty confident, like I said, moderately tall guy, in the blink of an eye, I found myself in a situation that could have gone another direction very quickly. And so one of the reasons I love talking to women like yourself who do what you do is I don't get a glimpse into that world very often. And when I do, it's impactful. So I love hearing your stories and the stories of how you can help bring women from perhaps a place of fear to flourishing and becoming world travelers. I'm taking a guess that some of your clientele over the years have perhaps fit that mold.
Yeah, I think it's really easy for when you're talking about female travel to focus on safety, and it's
Right,
fair. Also, I
right.
think that there's so much more to it. I think it's really nuanced. You know, I've definitely seen solo female travelers out in the world
Mhm.
making some pretty risky decisions. And
Right.
it's not that it's not a thing, it's not about intelligence or about anything. It's about experience and skill because keeping yourself safe when you're in different cultures, different countries with different languages and different systems is a skill. Solo female travel is a skill. And when people ask me, and people ask me a lot, what are some of the countries you would recommend to a first-time solo traveler? And of course, there are countries that are considered and perceived as more safe in the world. And I, of course, would recommend those to first-time travelers. But also, I think that whatever you do, you need to like always be challenging that skill, right? Until you really master that, okay, I know how to keep myself safe. So I wouldn't recommend to a first timer to go to, I don't even want to name countries. Like
Right.
let's just say
So,
India because that's like notoriously overwhelming. Safe,
yes.
unsafe, who's
It's a
to
lot on
say?
the senses, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, so I probably wouldn't say, first time leaving the country, go alone to India, but maybe like Portugal is one of my favorite examples. It's safe, perceived as safe.
Yep.
Culturally, it's not so different. Um, and kind of easy and pretty. Um,
Right.
so I'm a little bit rambling on this, I guess,
Oh
at
no, no, no.
this
This is
point.
fascinating because I've got daughters and my lens, which is fine, is safety. But
Yeah,
sometimes that's all I think about. And you're absolutely right. And part of the reason the secret I love doing this podcast is because I'm learning alongside anyone else who's listening. It's safety obviously is a top priority, but it's so much more than that. And
yeah,
that's what I love hearing from you. It's broadening your horizons and building that confidence.
yeah. I think it often depends on somebody's life experience too, like where they might have a little bit more skill in traveling. And so, our tours, of course, a lot of our travelers come who don't have a lot of experience traveling solo, or they're, maybe not so comfortable going to these specific destinations solo. And we also have some very experienced, more experienced than me, solo travelers who come on our tours who could conquer any country. Like they could have the best trip anywhere they go. Um, but they want to come because they don't want to worry about it. They don't want to plan everything. They don't want to do the research because sometimes that's a lot. And they want to go with women who get them. They want to experience this place with other people. Like who wants to go to on like an African safari all by yourself? I don't. I
Right,
mean,
I
I've done
wouldn't.
it, but
Right, right.
it's a lot more fun when you're with other people. So those types of experiences as well. That's another reason to travel with a group.
And I do wonder, I'll share a quick story from my personal life here. I think I've shared on a podcast before. Oh, 6 or 7 years ago, I went back to Scotland and I walked the West Highland Way, which is a 100-mile hiking trail. And my wife came and we started. We did about half of it. And then unfortunately, she blew her knee out. Just stepped on a rock funny and it was a little sore. And the next morning, that thing resembled a grapefruit. And so she was
No.
done. And, we talked about just, going home. That was that. But what ended up happening was I would walk 10 or 15 miles and she would taxi, bus, train, do whatever to get to where we were going to stay the next night. My wife had, at this point, hadn't traveled internationally a bunch, and I'd traveled a bit more. So she naturally tended to lean on me, which is no problem at all. We got to the end. I finished the hike, and she made it every day. And we took a moment of reflection, and well, of course, we wish she hadn't hurt her knee. She gained a confidence that she can do it, that she
Mhm.
has carried forth to we've now traveled to various other places, and she's off. She's got it. So in a funny way, we both got the journey we needed out
Yeah.
of that. And if she hadn't had that experience, if she may not have the confidence that she now does to get that train to ask somebody in it, who does English may not be their first language for guidance. And so I don't know, I'm just relating to this a lot because I've seen firsthand when somebody who isn't necessarily terrified by any stretch, but just hasn't done it, does it,
Mhm.
and then get the bug and they can
Yeah.
they can flourish.
I love that example because that's not purely about safety. That's about confidence. And a lot,
Exactly.
yeah, and a lot of times it's really about that confidence and not, and like the safety fears are just the easiest outlet to put your fears, Like it's not always really about that. Like you can go to another country and call an Uber. It's pretty similar no matter what country you're in,
Right.
Like it just feels scarier because it's not at home. But yeah, I like that example because I do think that traveling solo teaches you just how capable you are. And it almost always surprises people how capable they are because you're put in situations where you have to figure it out, you have to rely on yourself, and you have to also rely on these skills that you maybe have never tested before. So,
Yeah, people may not realize they have them,
mhm.
but they do. That as a business owner, that must be really satisfying to see. I know you're running a business and there'll be a bottom line and expenses and all that, but that's got to be super rewarding.
It is. And I think that's something really special about our tours is that, there's loads of group tours out there, right? But
Right.
most of them focus on holding your hand and keeping you entertained the entire time you're with them. But on our tours, of course, you have 24/7 support, of course,
Right.
but we build in solo time in all of our itineraries so that you can decide if you want to go out into the city and explore by yourself, people watch, navigate the public transit, whatever you want to do, you can do that. But you can also choose to go hang out with these awesome new people that you met and spend the time with them. You can also go do your own totally separate thing. So, everyone is in different stages of their lives. Some people are trying to build those new skills. Some people want to feel that independence, and some people want to feel the connection. So, that's something that I'm really proud of on the tours, that women have the choice to do whatever they want, knowing at the end of the day that they're safe, they're taken care of, and someone knows where, like, someone is waiting for them back at the hotel at the end of the day.
I love that, and knowing that I hate the word safety net. That's not what I mean, but knowing they have people there for them, I
Yeah,
assume allows them to flourish, take take a step they may not have otherwise taken, because they
exactly.
know they've got the power of your company right there behind them. Now, I
Exactly.
could talk about the people who go on your trips all day because these stories fascinate me. I absolutely love it, but I'd love to pivot slightly and ask you about running this company. And, what is it like? How did you really get started into turning it from one trip to Bali to what it is now? If you could talk us through that, I would love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, that first trip was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my career. I think to this day, even, and I've been running trips now for 8 years, but that trip was exciting, of course, but I had to do everything. I did everything on my own, which is what founders do.
Hmm.
And I had to do it quickly. And I had everything was the first time. So I decided Bali, like I said, because it was sort of the closest exotic place to where I was living. And the good thing about this kind of experience is that it doesn't require, if you play your cards right, it doesn't
Hmm.
have to require an upfront investment of very much. And so I had the community, I had the passion, I had the time, and my um under the counter, under minimum wage jobs in Australia were good motivation to try something different. So I put this trip together, and I put together a really ugly Wix website. It was like baby blue background, white cursive writing. It was very ugly. But it did the job. And so I ended up selling 17 spots on this trip, which was,
Wow.
I oversold. I made a mistake. I
Right.
sold I sold more spots than I had beds. So I had to fix that. I got a bigger villa, and I made so many mistakes. I can't even. So many mistakes. And it was literally by luck and will that I got through this trip with 17 very happy travelers.
It's
And
amazing.
it is amazing. Looking back, I'm like, damn, I don't know.
Right.
It, and it came with help along the way. People, I unexpectedly met who wanted to see me do well and helped me in whatever way that they could. I made mistakes like, I mean, I had no idea at the time that like a Javanese Muslim person and a Balinese Hindu person don't get along. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Why would
And
you?
so
Yeah.
exactly. So I had a Balinese Hindu assistant who was my fixer, right? And
Hmm.
then I had a driver who was Javanese Muslim, and my driver wouldn't listen to my assistant. And so that was one of many similar problems. Um, I mean, I could actually probably write a book about that one trip and all the things that secretly went wrong behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, it was so good that 9 of those 17 women got our logo tattooed. They asked for a
I
tattoo
love
artist.
that.
We had a tattoo party, and our logo is really our community symbol, and it has a lot of meaning. And they felt so connected to each other and to us that they wanted to commemorate that feeling. And so that was the first trip. I mean, with that kind of ending to a trip, how could I not do more?
Absolutely, and I love that we've kind of gone full circle there. They got these tattoos not because I'm sure it was gorgeous, not, but it wasn't because of a connection to Bali, but to each other and to that
Mhm.
community. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing. I think it's just wonderful. What's going to be next for the company when you look 2026 and beyond? Sort of more of the same but growing, or have you got new places you want to go? What's next for the solo female travel network?
We are always trying to create amazing tours to the places that our travelers want to go. And more importantly, experiences that they want to have. Because sometimes it's not always about the destination, it's about the type of experience, the thing that you want to feel, or like the thing that's gonna like make you feel alive. So, um, that's always on my mind. What really cool thing can we offer next? So this year we have had some really amazing tours as requested by some of our repeat travelers. This year we released a few new ones. We released Uganda, and to be
Wow.
honest, that one is sick. I mean,
Yeah.
I have to say, like for the price and inclusions, the value of this trip is very high. And it's got the gorillas and the chimp and the gorilla trekking, the chimpanzee trekking. You walk with rhinos, you do the lion trekking, you do the safaris. I mean, there's a lot of cultural experiences with women. So, it's not always about the destination for us. It's really about like, do we have the partnerships in the destination that can enable us to offer experiences and connections that women wouldn't be able to find totally on their own? And if the answer is yes, then we typically put together a tour and see how it goes.
I love that that's your focus, and I'm not belittling anyone who does this because there's a time and a place, and I get it. But I talk to people who have quote unquote been to Mexico and never left the hotel.
Hmm.
And that's fine. Like, I'm not belittling it because that's a time to recharge and reset. But it's in the back of my mind, and maybe I'm being a little judgmental. I'm like, well, did you really see Mexico? And I love the fact that you're ensuring that people doing what they want to do, of course, but have the opportunity to be immersed in the culture of where it is you're going and experience things that they couldn't do here. That seems to
Yeah.
be one of the real focuses of what you do.
For sure. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to running a business, of course, but one of my biggest priorities is that our trips always include and support. That support piece is important, supporting the local community and the women that we meet. Because when you support them, that's when they include you. That's when they invite you into their homes. That's when they view you as a partner instead of just another tourist. And so the way that we interact with and treat the local people is important just from an ethical standpoint, but then it also enables, it invites us. We get invited into homes and into cool back alley places we maybe never would have found. So if we don't have that kind of connection in a destination, then we don't offer it. So sometimes, people can sometimes look at our offerings online and say, wow, this is kind of a random mix of countries. I mean, yes, we go to Uganda and Egypt and we also go to Mongolia and Kyrgyzstan and we do Ecuador. I mean, it's kind of all over the map and it doesn't always look like it makes sense, but it makes sense to me because these are the destinations where we have friends, essentially.
I love that, and you've kind of backed into my next question, which is beautifully done. It's like you knew. I was thinking, you're empowering and providing this place for women to go around the world. But when you land somewhere and you take this group somewhere where perhaps traditionally women have been repressed or not had the same opportunities and perhaps now do. There's something going on there that is allowing women all, the equal opportunities, whether that's businesses or through education or even something like selling crafts on the side of a road. I don't know. Are you able to connect what you do and bringing this group there with, let's just say, a like-minded group of women in your destination?
Yeah, I mean, I think that oftentimes just being a group of women is enough to make women and just women in general feel more
Mhm.
comfortable.
Right.
One of my favorite examples is in Jordan. We have this beautiful Jordan trip. And when we go, we're their favorite group. I mean, they do a lot of this NGO in particular, they do welcome a lot of tourists,
Mhm.
but we're their favorite because when we show up, our guide is female, we're all women. We make the driver sit in the car, and when we walk in, they shut all the blinds, they close all the doors, they take off their hijabs, they turn their music up, and they teach us how to dance. And,
That's
we go for pottery, but we don't usually get around to the pottery because we're just like having too much fun. And after that, we sit around. They cook us this like delicious meal. We sit around a fire, and it is one of the most genuine cultural exchanges, like conversations that I've ever had. I mean, there's no question off limits, and it's not only us asking them about how they live, but it's they ask us questions as well. And so that's just one example, and every single trip has at least one, usually multiple, experiences like this. And so it is really special to be traveling as a group of women and to go greet women in other countries.
I love it. Again, my friend Christine that I spoke to yesterday runs the Women's Book Club group, and it's almost a parallel story where the book they're reading sounds like the pottery. That's the hook. But she said, honestly, they talk about the book for 10 minutes, and the rest of the hour or 2 hours or whatever it is fellowship. It's
Mhm.
connection. The book may have brought them together, and yes, they'll touch on it, but it's so much deeper than that from what she was explaining to me. And it just sounds like a very, yes, you could learn to do pottery in, Jordan, and that would be incredible. But connecting with women on the other side of the world, and I assume finding so many similarities.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want to sort of gender anything, but raising children and things like that across the world and being able to converse with somebody about common issues and things that I can only imagine how wonderful that must be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we're kind of rounding the corner here as we kind of get ready to finish off the interview. And if you don't mind, I've not prepped you for these, but I've got three questions for you.
Okay.
Um, my first one, you can take this as a business owner, as a traveler, or just a human being, but how has success changed for you and the definition of success? Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Let me just think for a sec.
Of course, you just take your time. You can take it various different angles, but I do find that people's view of what success means tends to change.
Yeah. When I started offering tours, I all I wanted was to feel secure in my life. I wanted a reasonable income, nothing crazy. Still don't
Hmm.
need anything crazy, but I just wanted to be able to buy groceries without looking at the cost of every single thing. I mean, at the
Right.
time when I was traveling long term. I was traveling for years doing the nomad thing. I sort of semi-settled in Australia for a time and had such a hard time getting a job. And I had a good time. I was having so much fun, but I had
Hmm.
very little security. So when I started, that's really, for myself, that's all I really wanted. And, now that I do have that security, I find that my satisfaction and when I feel the most successful is when we have completed a beautiful tour, like the tour of my dreams, and I had we do only groups up to 14, but no matter how many people are on that tour, when they come away feeling that traveler excitement, that shared first, made their new travel besties, had the experience of a lifetime, I know that feeling. We know that
Right.
feeling as travelers. And when I can help other women experience that, that is when I feel the most fulfilled and the most successful.
I love that. My second question for you is, has there been a book or a piece of music, or perhaps both, that has been particularly impactful in your life? You're free to choose one, the other, or both. Totally up to
Oh
you.
my gosh. I mean, wow, it just like kind of depends if it's like for work, for travel, for personal, I don't know.
You could just go with your gut. It could be anything you want, anything, even one that's just got you through some hard times, or motivates you, or inspires you, or planted a seed in your head.
I'm going to actually I'm going to not answer this question. I'm going to answer a little differently.
I love
So,
that. Yes.
I can think of countless books and music and things that have inspired me, but I
Hmm.
honestly can't think of one that has changed the trajectory of anything that I've done.
Right.
And honestly, like if I tell you what I listen to or watch or read in my low moments,
Hmm.
like that's just kind of boring. So what I'm gonna say is the times that the things that have made the biggest impact on my life and my business is when I've had another woman who's a little bit further ahead of me or a lot further ahead of me in terms of whatever I'm working through, especially business, when she sits down with me, holds that space with me, and says, "You can do it. You're gonna do it."
I
Like
love it.
it's that, it's when a woman, a fellow woman, gives me that confidence and affirmation. Sometimes we just need to hear it. That's what made me, that's a big reason why I ultimately did my very first trip to Bali, because this one woman in particular who was already an entrepreneur sat me down and said, "You fucking got this." Sorry to curse, but you
You're
got
fine.
this.
I love that. I love that you took the question a different direction, and what a powerful story that is. Um, And who knows, maybe you've already done that for somebody else or will in the future, which is it's kind of what it's all about, right? Passing
For
that
sure.
on and helping create self-belief in others. My final question for you on this, in of my three, is if you were planning your dream trip, wherever that may be, taking people, who is one person, if you could choose somebody from history, the present day, somebody you know, somebody you don't know, celebrity, anything. If you could take one person on a trip with you, who would that be?
Man, you have some deep questions.
I do. Well, I'll tell you now, some people have gone very deep with this. Some people are just like, you know what? I've never been on a trip with my mother before. And they've gone
Yeah.
that direction too. So it can be as surface level or as deep as you want. Just somebody who you think that would be incredible to go on one of your adventures with.
I have two answers. Um, I have been very inspired by Sarah Blakely, and I
Hmm.
loved her masterclass. I watched it earlier on, when I was running this business, and I just really like her. I find her really relatable. She's obviously very successful. She's very good at giving practical, clear and direct advice, and I think she's just a girl's girl. So I would love for her to travel with us. I think that
Right?
would be so fun. So that would be one. And then also I would have to I would have to probably say my grandparents on my
Hmm.
mom's side, because they were big travelers, especially later in life, and they went to a lot of countries and they kept these travel journals that they're both long gone now, but my aunt recently found them and we've been reading them. And so I didn't realize, I didn't know that they were so adventurous and so um, open and so awed by the world. So I would love to experience the world with them.
I love that, and it makes me smile that you're sort of backed into an impactful book. It sounds like these journals they wrote have had a
That's
wonderful
true.
influence on your life. That just makes me grin from ear to ear. Now, if people want to follow your adventures, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
You can find us on Instagram. Solo Female Travel is our handle. You can also find us online. We actually have a pretty cool, for totally free quiz that, if you don't know where you should travel next, or if you just want to take like a cute Cosmo like quiz, you can take it. It's on our homepage. It's free, no email required. Our website is sofetravel.com, SOFE travel.com, or you can get there by the solofemaletravelernetwork.com. You can also find us on Facebook. Our free big Facebook group is always a great resource as well.
I love it. Well, Amanda, I've interviewed lots of people now. I've heard fascinating stories, but this sitting here talking to you for the last 30 minutes or so, I've just been grinning to ear, from ear to ear. As like I said, I've got daughters myself, and they're now of the age where they're exploring the world, and it makes this dad's heart happy that there's
Oh,
such a great network and a place for them to feel comfortable and be the very best versions of themselves. So, Amanda Black, thank you so very much for being here with me today.
thank you so much for having me. This was great fun.
Thank you again to this week's guest, and I hope today's episode was as enjoyable for you as it was for me, and perhaps even inspired your next adventure. If you did enjoy the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can find more information at theoutdoorseyeducator.com or follow us on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Until next time, thank you so much for listening to the Outdoorsy Educator podcast.